Okay, so today I'm going to make a video that I've made a few times. If you are new to my channel, let me give you a quick explanation of why you should watch this video, because I'm aware that it's probably going to be quite long. I've made quite a few videos on how to do a puncture repair. There's a lot of videos on the internet on how to do this. I've watched quite a few of them. Some of them leave some things out. Some of them just assume you know how to do something because the person in the video has done it X hundred or 1,000 times and they just forget how difficult it was when they began. I don't know how many puncture repairs I've done, but it's a lot. Uh, yeah, I've done a lot of these. If somebody comes into my work and they have a puncture repair, it is not a problem. It is just something I do almost every day. I'm going to give you a few tips that if you're new to this, or if you're struggling with a particularly difficult tire, case in point, I've chosen one of my road bike wheels, skinny little 25C tire. You do get some tires that are thinner than this, like 23s, you get 17s, you get tubulars. I'm not going to talk about tubulars because I don't do tubulars. Different from tubeless, different thing. But let's get into it. So you're going to need a couple of tools. You're not going to need much for this, but you are going to need a couple of tools. I would highly recommend a pair of gloves because the method that I use requires quite a bit of thumb. I do find it illuminating, interesting, however you want to describe it. Usually about maybe once every 1 or 2 months, I'll have a particularly built man. It's always a guy. Particularly built dude comes in. You can tell he works out. You can tell he's probably like actually maybe an amateur bodybuilder. Like strong, looks fucking built. And he can't get a tire on. Can't get it on or off. And it's not because he's not strong enough. Just doesn't know how to do it. It's not really a strength thing. It is more the skill, the specificity, you know the word I'm trying to say, of knowing what to actually do with your hands to get the tire on and off the wheel. Because I'm not a super strong guy. Yes, I go rock climbing. Yes, I have fairly strong hands from being a mechanic for fucking years, but it's much more so the skill of knowing what to do rather than just being really strong. Especially with road tires, because these can be really, really quite stuck on. Now, obviously, you have your tire, you have your rim, and most tires, if they are a tubed tire, they will have a bead. I mean, even tubeless tires will have something resembling a bead, but it won't be quite as thick as a typical wired tire, typically speaking. My first tip, and this is really important, this makes all the difference in the world, is some sort of moisture, some sort of liquid in a situation, a lubricant of some sort. Please, for the love of God, don't use WD-40 or something as aggressive as that. You'll be quite fine with a bottle of bicycle degreaser or soapy bubbles. Will make a world of difference. All you need to do, in fact, tell you what I do. Oh God, tell you what I do. I'm going to show you. This will probably be quite difficult to do dry. Tip number 2: get yourself some good tire levers. These are muck-off rim sticks. They are similar in design in some ways to Pedro's tire levers. Some people really like Pedro's. I have used muck-off rim sticks for about a year and a half, 2 years on some hellishly difficult puncture repairs, and they just seem to do the job in almost every situation. Sometimes sometimes it doesn't quite go, and sometimes you need a skinnier tire lever to get under the bead if it's a particularly tight tire. But almost every puncture repair I have done, these have been perfect, outstanding tire levers. I love these. They're just plastic. You get some that are steel cord, but typically the steel cord ones, the steel will only run maybe 80% the length of the tire lever, and the tip will still snap off. Additionally, if you're working on the likes of carbon wheels, then sometimes it can be a little bit scary to use tire levers. So as a result of that, I kind of learned how to put tires back on. It's not so much an issue of damaging the rim when you're taking them off. It's more so when you're putting them back on, especially with carbon rims. You can, if you lever too hard, you could crack the rim, and you could potentially cost yourself hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to replace that wheel. Yeah. So get yourself some good tire levers. So let's start by showing what it looks like. You can try and do it dry, which is what most people do. You take the tire lever. Now, I'm going to say this is obvious, but I did once see someone try and do a puncture repair with the tire completely inflated and try and take the tire off of the rim with it inflated. So you have to deflate the tire. Obviously, if you're doing a puncture repair, it will be deflated, but if you're just trying to change your tires, then it won't be deflated. So you need to take the air out of the tire first. You're very new to this, and it's a press the valve, which looks like that. Very skinny little valve. Then you will need to unscrew this little tip. Don't unscrew it all the way, because then it'll fall off. It'll be a nightmare, and you have to go to the bike shop and be like, oh, and then they'll be like, oh, you need to get a puncture repair done. You have to pay for it anyway. So just unscrew that a little bit. Then you can push this up. I've already taken all the air out of it, so there's no noise, but there will be a noise when you take the air out of it. So what I would then recommend, this is the valve side, start at the opposite side, because this is where it will be easiest to get off. It will be tightest around the valve. Now, I can tell already by putting my tire lever in that when I go to pull this out, it's quite stiff. It's bloody hard. Push that along there. Now, it will probably still be quite difficult once I've wetted this rim up, but I imagine it will be significantly easier. I'm going to go the whole way around because this feels like quite a tight bead. And to be honest, this is about as difficult as it gets. If you can do road tires like this, then you will not have any issue with mountain bike tires. So we're on the opposite side from the valve holes there. I'm going to start here. I've wetted the rim. I insert my tire lever. I fold it down so it's like this. And now I'm going to push forwards like so. Oh, look at that. See how that moved? Now, I'm not going to lie. This is hard. It does require a lot of thumb to really push it forward. But I guarantee you, if I hadn't wetted the rim up, this would be unbelievably fucking difficult to break the bead. And I have just broken the bead. And all I did was wet it up. It makes such a ginormous fucking difference you would not believe. So if you're struggling getting road tires on and off, wet the bloody thing. Don't worry if it's rim brake. Most of my brakes are rim brake. Just dry it off. It'll be fine afterwards. Okay, so that's the lion's share of that done. Now, sometimes you'll find it difficult to get the other side of the tire off. But what I'll typically do, so this side's obviously off the rim. This side's still in the rim. Apologies, my lighting's not perfect. I'm much more of a mechanic than a filmographer. Cinematographer. Jesus Christus. Right, so we've got this side off. Now what I do is my fingers are between the tire and the rim. Fingers in there, right? In there. So what I typically do is I just try and pull the bead up, which is the wired part of the tire, here. And then once you've done that, you can quite often just pull it off. Again, if it is difficult, spray it with the degreaser and it will probably come off a lot easier. I will be honest, it does just require a certain amount of strength. If you have very weak hands, very weak arms, and you wet it, you will probably find it difficult. But it will make it easier. Now, assuming you're doing a puncture repair, I always take the tire completely off. Some people think this is overkill. Some people will take half the tire off and just put a new tube in. The danger when you do that is, if you have done that, is that you may not find what caused the puncture. You might think it was just a pinch flat, but what I always do is take the tire completely off so that I can inspect the rim. I always start at the rim hole. It's here. That's where the valve goes. And then look around the rim. Run my finger, make sure there's no little metal burrs. Make sure there's nothing in the rim that is going to cause a re-puncture once I put the tyre back on. Looking around that, I'm fairly happy that there's not really anything there that's going to cause an issue. After I've done that, I will look at the tyre. Now, I know that this hasn't been punctured, but I'm going to show you anyway. So this is a Continental Grand Prix 4-season. Now, I'm going to tell you something, a little insider tip. Continentals are very good tyres. They tend to last very long. They will, however, be a bit of a fucking nightmare to get onto the rim if you've never done this before. They're just tough tyres. Marathon Schwalbes are also tough tyres. They are universally difficult to fit. Even if you do all of these tricks. I still find them difficult to fit sometimes. But with these tricks and with the practice, you get better at it. I can't just suddenly make you able to do this, but if you follow these steps, then you'll probably find it significantly easier than if you didn't. So the next thing I do is I go over the outside of the tyre and I just have a look. I just inspect it for glass, little stones, anything that may be caught in the tyre that may cause a re-puncture, because it is rather embarrassing when somebody hands you a tyre. You fit a new tube and it's been very difficult, and then you go to pump it up and it pops again instantly because you've not cleared the debris out of the tyre. So it's very important to do that, but I know that there's not anything in this, but I'm still looking just in case there's any little bits that I can maybe knock off. Once you've done that, I then look on the inside. A lot of tyres will have a little number or a little QC sticker, quality control sticker on the inside. This is where an apron comes in handy. I'm not just wearing it because it says Part Tool on it. I think a lot of Part Tool stuff's overpriced and expensive, and you can often get things cheaper that do just the same job that aren't blue. But anyway, that's a rant for another day. They do have some cool stuff, but realistically, for most home mechanics, it's excessively expensive for what it is, for the most part. I also got this apron for free, so well. Well, I say free. I had to do some training credits at one of the other bike shops I worked at to get it. And I love this apron. It is very heavy duty. I think it's Cordura, or actually no, it's not Cordura. It's just canvas, but it's very good. I love this apron. Got lots of pockets. I'd normally start at the logo. Not all tyres have one as distinct as this. I generally start at the logo, look on the inside, look the whole way around, make sure there's no shit in there. Yeah, so once you are happy that your tyre is not got any crap in it, your rim does not have any crap in it, and your tube is functional, works, the way I normally do that, before I put a new tube in a wheel, is I will just, that's not really pumping up, give me a second. Why do you not, is my pump buggered? What's going on there? Oh, there we go. Just make sure that the tube pumps up. So you can see the tube has got some air in it. Pump. This also helps with getting it in the rim. Now, admittedly, I'm probably going to have to take a little bit air out of this because it is a road tire, road wheel combination, and these are skinny. They're just more difficult to do than mountain bikes and hybrids. They just are, because it's smaller. You have to fit your fingers into smaller gaps. You have to do things. The tires are stiffer. It's just more difficult. Which is why I'm showing you on this as opposed to a mountain bike. So if I showed you on a mountain bike, it'd be a piece of piss, and you'd be like, I'm still stuck, it's difficult. But I'm showing you this because it makes more sense. So, and if you've got Presta, which you probably will have done on a road bike, once you put a little bit of air in it, just twist that little nozzle bit on the tip of the valve just to hold the air in. Now, typically speaking, we will have if it's a quick release, if it's through axle, we need to figure out, if it's through axle, it doesn't really matter because you can put it on either fucking way. But if it's rim brake, I typically have the release side of the lever on the left-hand side of the bike, which means that when you put the tire, obviously you can take the thing out and twist it round, but for the sake of not having to do that, that's on the left-hand side, then that means the tyre is going to roll that way. Not all tyres have directional tread on them, most do. These do. I'm pretty sure they do. If they don't have a quote-unquote direction on them, then good practice is to look at the tread on the tyre, and you will probably see something. It will look vaguely arrow-esque, and there is a rotation mark here, and it says this way. And I'd be inclined to agree. It does look fairly universal both ways. However, this is the direction it says it's designed to run in, so that's the direction I'm going to put it in. The wheels facing this way and the tyres facing that way, that's the way it's designed to roll. If it's not like that, and it's completely slick, like a lot of road tyres are, then it probably won't make much of a difference. Some of them will still have a running direction on them, because some tyres like that, they're designed to go on one way rather than the other, and it will make a small difference to the rolling resistance. So it's worth paying attention to. So check your direction. I know it's going this way. Now usually what I will do is I will line up the logo of the tyre with the valve hole. The valve hole is here. And so I try and keep the logo around about the middle of that. This is not just an aesthetic point. It is aesthetic, and it looks nice when the valve lines up with the logo. However, if you say you get a puncture and you see a piece of glass that's here, you know that when you take the tyre out, the hole in the tube is going to be like about that far away from the valve either side. So it does help you identify the source of the puncture, the source of the hole in the tube if you're going to then patch it afterwards. A lot of people just put a new tube in, but if you're going to patch it, it does help you to locate where the hole is the first time. So let's put it back on. So what you do, line that up with the rim hole. Now I'm just placing the tyre on to the rim, like that. That's all I'm doing right now. Now what I'm doing with my other hand is I'm going to reach inside the tyre, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but if you can maybe see from that angle, this tyre's hanging off. All I'm going to do is put my hand inside the tyre, and I'm going to try and work it back on to the rim, like this. I'm just pushing it so that this side of the bead is all in the rim. Apologies if it seems I've been patronizing, but this can be difficult. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. So see how this bit here is not obviously in the rim. I'm going to start here and just try and pull it over. And again, if you use some lubricant at this point with a bit of degreaser, it will likely help. And now I know this is going to be tough, because at this point it's usually not that hard to get on, but at this point it is kind of difficult to get on. So I know that this is going to really be a fun one. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to spray a little bit of that degreaser down at that bit where it's been a little bit difficult. Now, the technique I'm going to use here to get that side of the tyre into the rim is basically the same as I would use to get the other side on, which I'll show you in a moment when we get to that point. But if I have the rim against my belly, what I do is I run my thumbs around the rim, pushing the rest of the rim as far down onto that side of the rim as I can, because I need it to come over the top side. You come over the top side, and I'm pushing the rest of the tyre down like this. Now obviously this bit of the tyre is not quite in the rim yet, so I'm pushing the rest of it down so that by the time I get around there, the gap between is a little bit smaller. And with the help of the degreaser, it goes on. So that's the first bit. Just make sure that we're still lined up with the rim hole, which is, where the fuck is it going? That side, there we go, that side. That's still lined up nicely. Yep, that's fine. So now what you need to do is you need to put the tube back in. So this is where it helps to have a little bit of air in it. A little bit of air in it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the tyre back so I can see the rim hole. First time I've done that with a camera point of view is pop that in there. Now that that's in there, I'm going to just put my thumbs on the tube, pull. I realize black on black is difficult to see, apologies, but I'm just going to pull the tube, the tire, over and then use my fingers to push the tube inside the tire, like so. Now sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, not being on this occasion. If it is, then you can take your tire lever, say you get a bit and it's bunched up like this. It's actually difficult to show you because this one fits really well. But say you get a bit and it's bunched up like that, right? What you can do is when you push it in, so it's maybe bunched up, is you can use your tire lever to just maneuver around to just even out where the tube sits inside the tire, and it will reduce the odds of you getting like a bump in the tire. Because sometimes people they'll bring a wheel and they'll be like, oh, my wheel's bent. But realistically, what's actually happening is that whoever put the inner tube in hasn't put it in very well, and it's inflated and it's gone wonky and it's moving the tire even though the wheel's straight. So now this is the fun part. This is the part where people get stuck. This is the part where I'm going to take my time. Again, a little bit of moisture makes the world of difference. Spray the shit out of it. Get the whole thing clarted, especially with road tires. Now, we start at the top. We always start at the valve side. Flick this in. Now, I don't press the valves have a little lock ring like this. That little lock ring is used to hold the valve in place. Don't put it on just yet, because you may need to, if you find that you're having trouble getting this part of the tire in, it's typically because the tube is stopping it from sitting in right. What you can do is push the valve, which will push the tube into the tire, and it will mean you get clearance to then get that part of the tire into the rim. From this point, it's just fun. It's just fun. I wish I had a little stool to sit on and had a better camera angle, but I'm just going to have to do this difficultly, as if it wasn't hard enough already. So what I do, pull up, and I'm just working my fingers around the rim like this, push it in. They will get to a point where it becomes more difficult. This is the point where the thumbs come in handy if you're trying to do this without tire levers. I'm going to try and show you how to do it without tire levers. I'm trying to get it on without tire levers. This is an alloy rim, so I'm not too worried about damaging it. But crucially, since there's not much space to work with here, and what I mean by that is that there's not much space between the tube, the rim, and the tire, so you have a risk of pinching it, is I'm going to take a little bit of air out of that tube. You only really need air in there to get the shape for it to sit in right in the first place. Once you've done that, put the tire against your belly. Your thumbs, what you're going to do with your thumbs is you're going to use them and you're going to drive the tire down off the rim. This is really hard to line up on camera, apologies. You're going to drive your thumb, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to use some, and this is where Pedro's tire levers are really good, because Pedro's tire levers basically act like your thumb, and they do that. And you'll notice that when I go around with my thumb, it's chasing the tire, the bead of the tire into the rim. That's it. It's just that when you get near the end, it gets a lot tighter and a lot more difficult. It's also crucial to keep an eye out for spots like, difficult to see, but spots like this. Don't know if you can see that terribly well, but there's a bit of tube sticking out of the tire. And if you try and force the tire onto that with the tube in the way, you will puncture it. And you'll have to do this again. Don't do that. You want to make sure that as you go around, you're making sure that that inner tube is definitely in the bloody tire. Right, we're getting there. So, I hold up my belly, like so. What I normally do is, it's a bit difficult to show because of the angle, but what I normally do is I will be in a squat position with both legs up like this, and I'll try and put my legs underneath the rim to give me a good bit of support, so I'm kind of folded over. It's a bit of a funny looking position, but it works. For the purpose of the video, I'm going to do it here. So I put my hands around at the valve. I can get rid of my fingers. I'm leaning forward and I'm just using my thumbs to push the tyre down as far as I can, making sure that that inner tube stays inside. Now this is going to be a tough one. I can feel it. I'm going to get a little bit more squish here, and I'm going to drive. Tell you what, let's move you a little bit lower down so you can perhaps see a little bit better. Give me a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Not a perfect world. Right, there we go. That's a good shot. So this is what I meant by that position. I have the rim on my thighs. I have good support, and then pushing my thumbs around like so, and I'm just trying to fight the fucker onto the rim at this point. At this point, it is just a bit of a fight. This is the point where I would take a tire lever, right, its alloy rim. If it's carbon, I just use more thumb pressure. Put your tire lever into the gap. Don't go right in the middle. I mean, at this point, you probably could go right in the middle. But for demonstration, I'm going to go, because obviously this bit from here to here is not yet in. Put my tire lever on there, and I just lever gently. And once it's over there, then just turn it to the side. Slide it to the side. Now from there, see that all that is left is that little strip between here and here. That you can probably get on just by rolling the thumbs. Like so. Whew. Now, once you've done that, key step before you pump the tyre up. Start at the rim. Pull the tyre up like this, and just make sure that the tube is not pinched between the rim and the tyre. Because if it is, when you go to pump it up, you'll pinch flat it again. So just real quickly, a bit difficult to hold it in that angle and show you, but I've shown you so you know what you need to look for. This is why brightly coloured rim tape is very good, because it means you can see if there is a black inner tube between those two spots. And check both sides, of course. The main area it will typically happen is right at that end point where it's most difficult to get on. So if you know that that's not there, then it should be fine the rest of the way around. Right, I am fairly happy that that is all good. Now what we do is we pump it up. Now I do this in 2 stages. Once I can get my pump up and the bloody, come on. Oh, bloody sake, come on, there we go. Right, put the pump. Undo that little valve. Now, all pumps are different, so I'm not even going to tell you how this pump works, just you need to figure out how your pump works. Can't do everything for you. Pop that on like that, flick it down or flick it up, they're all different, and start pumping up. Now, if you have used a spray, then you probably see some of that spray coming out the side of the tyre, or through the edges. Don't worry about that. What I typically do is pump the tyre halfway up to your desired pressure. So I'm probably going to take these tyres up to about 70 psi. I rate them a little bit lower pressure than a lot of people recommend tyres of this size, but it's comfortable for me, it works for me. So what I would do is pump up to about 35. That's about 40 there. Take the pump off. Now this is important to avoid blow-offs, because sometimes that happens if you've not quite seated it right. So what you're going to do at this point, say it needs to go to 40 psi and you've pumped up to 20 psi. Take it off and just look around, start at the valve, and just look around between the rim and the tyre and make sure that it all looks the same. What I mean by that is you want to make sure that there's not any point where it seems as though the tyre is bulging off the rim. If it is bulging off the rim, deflate it and maybe use some spray, wiggle around, work that part of the tyre backwards and forwards to make sure that it's definitely seated. Because if you inflate that all the way and you haven't got it secured properly, then when you get up to pressure, it will likely blow off, make a horribly loud noise, and you won't want to do puncture repairs ever again. Happened to me several times. I've been stood beside people when it's happened. I know that it's horrible on the ears because I've been stood right beside it when it happens, and it's shit. You don't want to do that. So make sure that you are careful when you're doing that. And then pop your pump back on and take it all the way up to your desired pressure. For me, I'm going to take that up to 70. Although I'm going to take it a little bit past that, because typically when you pull the valve off, you don't really get much there. You get a little bit of a hiss of air, and then you'll lose a couple of psi. So I typically take it a few psi over what I'm actually looking for. Then I screw the little cap, screw the little silver piece here, not super tight, just hand tight, and then put my little cap on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is probably the most comprehensive video I have ever made on how to do a puncture repair. Hopefully, given that this video is 31 minutes long, my microphone has not died, and the file will actually upload, and you can enjoy this, because honestly, I think this is very good. And I think if you watch this video once or twice, you will not have any problems doing puncture repairs in the future. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends if they are people that need to do puncture repairs, like doing this sort of thing. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got any requests for any videos you'd like to see, please let me know. For context, the kind of bikes I really work on are pretty much exclusively mechanical. I don't really dick around with hydraulics very often. I have them on one of my bikes. I don't really do suspension things. I do have a nice, lovely hardtail, but when that fork needs serviced, I take it to a place where they service forks. But if you need advice, tips and tricks on how to keep your beautiful mechanical bicycles running, then please let me know, because in that regard, I'm pretty good at this stuff. So until the next time, ride safe, and I'll see you later.